Hi, we are back with Pathfinder Wrath of the War. I chose companion builds for unfair difficulty, and we are going to cover Daeran in this video. If you are new to the series and don't know how we do our builds, they are all made for unfair difficulty and none of them exploit bugs, so they should all remain viable despite any bug fixes or patches made to the game. It's also worth mentioning that all my builds are tested from early to late levels. They are not made just for the sake of YouTube videos. I do them firstly for my own unfair playthroughs, and it's very important to me that they are actually effective at every level in the game, so I can actually get through with my playthroughs and not just remain the helm of theory crafting. Because this is a turn-based system, but the game is real time with pause, sometimes builds don't go as I'd expect them, and that's why I think the testing is important, so I can both bring you the best builds and actually be able to beat the game on unfair difficulty, which is my main goal. With all that out of the way, let's get to our builds. Daeran is kind of built as a healer by Alcat, but he's an oracle, which in my opinion is one of the most versatile and strongest classes in the game. Has a good spell list, has a lot of versatility in its mysteries, so there's a lot we could do with him. The path I chose for him is a magic damage dealer, as I felt we were missing those, and yeah, let's just see how he did it. For the first few levels, he doesn't do that much. He's just similar to a cleric support. His best damage dealing spell for a reasonable amount of time is Bone Shake. At lower levels, as I said, Daeran's more of a support, but you still have some decent options like Soundburst, which can even get you some stuns a few times. Enemy saves are not super high, so here it was a hit and a stun, but we also at this level struggle a lot to overcome spell resistances, so don't expect too much out of Daeran when trying to deal damage in combat. Even though he has decent spells, our chances of overcoming spell resistance is not super high, and on top of that, enemies have to fail saves for our damage to actually be effective. Here the enemy succeeded, so the damage is halved, but sometimes we do get lucky and can deal some damage. But don't expect that, and mostly get utility out of him as a support, because this is going to be his main role early game. So at level 5 we take spell penetration. At level 7 we take spell focus evocation. This is where we start to really go for our build. At this level you should have Salamander Ring, which goes well in this Daeran build, and at level 7 we also take as a revelation Weapon Mastery. We are only able to take this because at Mythic rank 1 we took second mystery, Battle, otherwise we wouldn't be able to take this mystery. And at level 8 we take a multi-class into Cross-Blooded Sorcerer. As our bloodlines we choose Draconic, Brass and Red. You can also choose Gold. The only thing that matters is that it has a fire-based arcana, so it increases the damage of fire-based spell. And as a bonus feat we take Greater Spell Penetration. Now we should start dealing a little bit more damage, and we keep going Oracle until level 20 now. So going forward we take Greater Spell Focus Evocation, so our fire spell saves is even higher. Then we take Point Blank Shot and Precise Shot, because at level level 13 we'll get to 6th level spells, and we want to cast some Hellfire Rays and have a chance to actually hit. We also get some bonus feats from Weapon Mastery. We gain Weapon Focus, Improved Critical, and Greater Weapon Focus. All of those I took into Ray. So Weapon Focus Ray, Improved Critical Ray, and Greater Weapon Focus Ray. Here at level 11 we get a second revelation. I took Battlefield Clarity. It's a nice bonus to saving throws against conditions that are very common, especially stunned. There are several enemies that can inflict stunned. So remember to use this one if you choose to take it. It can save you some rounds of stun. Then at level 15 we take Elemental Focus Fire to increase our fire spell saves even further, and as a revelation, War Sight to get better initiative. Then at level 17, Greater Elemental Focus Fire, and as our last feat we take Meta Magic Bolster. And as our last for last revelation we take Combat Healer. Now we can cast heals as swift actions. This is very nice and adds to his support abilities. Now for Mythic levels, this is where the most important parts of this build in particular are, in my opinion. We start with Second Mystery Battle as our first Mythic ability. This is very nice because it saves a lot of feats, allowing us to get Weapon Focus Ray, Critical Focus Ray, and a feat we wouldn't even be able to get otherwise in Greater Weapon Focus Ray, without needing to spend any of our regular feat slots, making us able to get other things like Elemental Focus Fire and Greater Elemental Focus Fire that might have been left out of the build otherwise. Then we go into Spell Focus Mythic Evocation for Mythic Rank 2, and later Ascendant Element Fire. It's only when we get this that we really start dealing decent amounts of damage, because enemies do have a lot of fire resistance in this game, so Ascendant Element Fire is really important for you to actually deal a good amount of damage. Then we go into Spell Penetration Mythic, later Elemental Bloodline Fire. I think there's a good argument here to take as a second bloodline instead of Elemental Bloodline Fire, a third Fire Draconic Bloodline. I only take this Elemental Bloodline Fire because of Stormbolts. But we also have Firestorm as a cleric spell of level 8, which deals a lot of damage. It doesn't have such a nice effect as Stormbolt's stun, but it does deal more damage if you choose to go with the third Fire Draconic Bloodline. It's a decent option in my opinion. Then at Mythic Rank 6 we take an extra Mythic ability and we take Less Than. Then we go into the Abundant Casting line for the next 3 Mythic levels and finish it with Weapon Focus Mythic Ray. If the Critical Focus Mythic Ray was working, I'd consider taking it instead, and if maybe even taking it at Mythic Rank 8. But currently it's not working, that's why we don't even take it, but otherwise I'd probably take it at Mythic Rank 8, a Critical Focus Mythic Ray. Now for spells, we have a slow start in terms of damage, but of course we have the full cleric support options, So even at early levels we are not bad, we are just a support that doesn't deal a lot of damage. Early game, our best damage option is Bone Shaker, which is okay, it's not bad, but not nearly as high as our late levels damage options. Then at level 3 we have Archon's as one of our most important spells in my opinion, and we get Fireball from Salamander Ring if you take that. At level 4, Divine Power is very useful to increase our attack, for us to hit our race more reliably. At level 5, we get Flame Strike, our first big damage spell. Then at level 6, we finally get Hellfire Ray, and also some other nice options like Dispel Magic Greater, Heal, and Blade Barrier. At level 7, I have Firestorm here, this is because of Salamander Ring, but we also can get Firestorm as a 8th level spell. So at level 7 we really have nothing too useful, aside from the Firestorm which comes from the ring. At level 8 we have regular Firestorm, Storm Bolts, and a bolstered Firestorm from the Salamander Ring, as well as Heal Mass, very strong spell. And at level 9 we have Storm Bolts bolstered, which does a lot of damage. We have Heal Mass again, I think one of them is due to the Life Mystery and the second is from our actual spell list. And some nice support options in Heroic Evocation, and Winds of Vengeance provides us concealment, is very useful. For equipment, there are some slots that we kind of compete for with our Nenio build mostly. If you have seen that, there are some equipments that I'm going to use here and I also used on her build, so you will need to choose which character you want to have which equipment. But for head, just a bonus to charisma, this way our saving throws are higher. We also put all of our ability scores into charisma when leveling up to increase our spell saving DCs. For cape, we have Cloak of Carnage, +2 to the DC of Evocation Schools. We have of course the Red Salamander Ring, which gives us a lot of nice spells we wouldn't be able to get otherwise. A Dexterity Belt to increase our chances of hitting rays. And for weapon, I'm using Quarterstaff of the War Mage, +2 to the DC of Evocation spells, but there are also some other options if you want to leave this one with Nenio. We can use Fairy Spellweaver, +1 to caster level on all spells, not bad, and also Plague of Madness. Sometimes you get unpowered spells. When you cast a spell 3 times in a row, your 4th cast then becomes empowered, and powered spells will do a lot of damage with this build, especially because this way you can use a Meta Magic Rod with your 4th spell to make it even stronger. Then we have, for armor, Hide Armor of Elemental Carnage. Really strong armor. Usually arcane casters wouldn't be able to wear this because it has arcane spell failure. Unless you spend 2 feats, you will not be able to wear this effectively, but we are divine casters, so we can wear this without any penalty, and it is just like a Draconic Bloodline Arcana, +1 damage per die rolled. Very powerful. This shirt is also supposed to be amazing. Currently it seems to be bugged and does nothing, but with this we will be able to just cast a fireball on ourselves to take some fire damage then just land a very strong firestorm to open up a fight. But yeah, it's bugged currently, it does nothing. I hope it gets fixed. It's going to increase our damage by a lot. And of course, Meta Magic Rods. The best for this character is Empower, the most effective. And Maximize is not bad. Weaken also not bad if you can spare those. But the Empower is certainly the most important here. Now let's just see Daeran casting a few spells here. We cannot handle this fight alone, but I just want to see he has a lot of AOE damage, so let's take a fight with a lot of enemies to see how much damage we can dish. So, empowered with Meta Magic and bolstered Firestorm deals around the 200 damage mark with enemies that make saving throw taking only half, 120. It's very decent damage. You can see even at unfair difficulty it's taking a good chunk out of enemies' HP. And if this item here, the Elemental Imbuement, was working, our damage could be considerably higher. We could just cast a fireball on ourselves before the firestorm and then just hit for a lot more damage. And let's just see how we do with our ray spells. I'm gonna turn out the Meta Magic Rod just to see our chance to hit. Even though we do not have as many items as Ember focused on hitting, we still are a 3/4 BB class, so we end up at a 14. We have decent dexterity at 6. We have spells like Divine Power to boost our chance to hit. And we also have Weapon Focus and Greater Weapon Focus from the Battle Mystery. And Concealment, which comes from Winds of Vengeance. So, at the end of the day, we still have a very decent chance to hit. This enemy doesn't have a particularly high AC, but we have a 37 to hit. Even enemies that have a 40, even 50, or even higher touch AC, with help from our party, we can get there. And our damage is not bad. A Hellfire Ray has a plus 46 because of our Draconic Bloodlines, and we even have Storm Bolts that deal 20 d8 damage instead of the Firestorm d6, so that could be even more powerful if you have someone to tank so you can get close enough to use it. And yeah, at the end of the day, when it comes to damage, Daeran might even be better than Ember, so he's a very strong character in my opinion. And this is it for his build. There's not much point in continuing this combat. Enemies will just come to me and kill me very quickly. We do not have any defensive options. And yeah, tell me if you like the video, if that's what you did for Daeran as well, or if maybe you went a more support route, as it seems was Alket's intention with the Life Oracle path. But I do think Oracle is one of the most versatile and strongest classes in the game, so I think it's a waste leaving him just as a pure support, and maybe using just some Necromancy spells for damage. Necromancy spells require saving throws, otherwise they just don't do any damage, even though they are strong. I'm not a fan, because there are not that many items that increase Necromancy spell save, and without any tools to increase those saves in our class as well, I don't think they are a reliable source of damage for unfair difficulty at all. So that's why I chose to go the Evocation. a bit of race spells, a bit of AOE save based spells, and it worked well for me. So let me know what you did for Daeran in the comments, and of course if you have any improvements for this build, as always, leave it in the comments, and until the next video, I hope you have a good time.